In what is an example of complete irony and projection, Senator Josh Hawley claimed that, no, it's the Democrats who are now refusing to accept the election results if they lose. Take a look.
Well, what I heard was what Joe Biden said loud and clear, which is he's already making excuses for why he's going to lose in November. And Pete, that's what this is all about. Democrats don't accept elections that they don't win. I mean, it happened in 2000, it happened in 2004, it happened in 2016. Now it's going to be 2022. I mean, if Joe Biden thought that his party was going to win these elections, then all would be fine. But he thinks, and because the polls suggest he's going to lose them, his party's going to lose them, the House and the Senate, and therefore they're illegitimate. I mean, it's dangerous, it's wrong, it's ridiculous, and everybody knows it's ridiculous, and yet there he is out there saying it.
All right. I cannot believe the Democrats might not accept the election results, says one of the guys who didn't accept the election results. Look, I'm going to rip this guy apart, but first I want to show you what Biden actually said. All right.
If this isn't passed, do you still believe the upcoming election will be fairly conducted and its results will be legitimate?
Well, it all depends on whether or not we're able to make the case to the American people that some of this is being set up to try to alter the outcome of the election. And it's one thing, look, maybe I'm just being too much of an optimist. Remember how we thought not that many people were going to show up to vote in the middle of a pandemic? We had the highest voter turnout in the history of the United States of America. Well, I think if, in fact, no matter how hard they make it for minorities to vote, I think you're going to see them willing to stand in line and defy the attempt to keep them from being able to vote. I think you're going to see the people we're trying to keep from being able to show up, showing up and making the sacrifice that needs to be made in order to change the law back to what it should be. But it's going to be difficult. I make no bones about that. It's going to be difficult. But we're not there yet. We've not run out of options yet, and we'll see how this moves.
Look, Joe Biden is not the greatest speaker. I think we already know that. But generally what he says there is in his own kind of bumbly old man way. Yes, he made a good point about voter suppression. The whole point of voter suppression is to keep minorities from voting in large enough numbers to overcome the dwindling Republican vote. And so voter suppression, again, is just putting stumbling blocks in the way and to make it more annoying, more difficult to access the polls or to have their vote even count. All right? So now, that's despite the efforts, right, of Republicans. You have people in the black community that turn out. Thanks to the tireless efforts of activists in those communities that actually did turn out. And so now in response, of course, to the 2020 election, 19 states with Republican majorities have enacted 33 laws that were restricting the right to vote. In fact, according to the Brennan Center for Justice, those 33 laws enacted in 2021 alone will have various impacts on voting, including to, but not limited to, making mail voting and early voting more difficult, imposing harsher voter ID requirements, and making faulty voter purges more likely. And then, of course, you add in the failure of the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act and the Freedom of Vote Act, thanks, of course, to Manchinima. And, well, that's going to make it so that, again, it makes it more difficult for people in these minority communities to get to vote. Now, there's still, again, you're going to be able to vote, but there's going to be longer lines. There's already lines in some places of 6 hours long. What, now you're going to make them 8 hours long? You're going to make them 10 hours long? You're going to make it more difficult? More forms of ID? I mean, that's what they're doing. And, of course, the Republicans know what they're doing. They know they can't just explicitly take away the right to vote from people. So they put all these roadblocks in the way. But then they pretend like, oh, no. What are you talking about? More people showed up during the 2020 election. There's no voter suppression. No, they turned out despite all that stuff. They turned out because they're dedicated. They turned out because they know exactly what you're trying to do. Trying to deprive them of their rights to be a part of the democratic process. And so now let's get back to Hawley. Now Hawley wants to sit there and compare that, what Biden had said, to what his party tried to do during January 6th. Again, Hawley was one of the Republicans who objected to the certification of Joe Biden, using, of course, the fake, the voter fraud, we got so much fraud, and we got questions. There's so many questions about the election. What's going on here? Now, again, these are lies put out by Trump and the rest of the party that have been debunked, disproven, numerous recounts and audits, even audits by pro-Trump people, by pro-Trump groups that are like, it turns out that the counts are pretty accurate. I mean, in some cases, Joe Biden actually got more votes than the official count. And in other cases, Donald Trump might have gotten a couple more votes, a couple hundred here and there, but not enough to alter the results of the election. And so, nonetheless, you got Donald Trump, you got the Republican Party, you got Fox News, Newsmax, OAN, these different right-wing channels and propaganda outlets that are basically saying, no, the election was stolen. We don't have any evidence for it, even though we've got the evidence. We're not going to show you the evidence. That's funny. So if you have the evidence and you're not going to show it, though, well, then you don't actually have the evidence. They've had numerous chances. What over 40 court cases? Even in front of pro-Trump, or at least Trump-appointed judges. And the judges are like, okay, you say you have these allegations. Let's see some evidence that backs that up. Well, we don't actually have it. Okay, well then get the hell out of my courtroom. What are you doing here? This is a waste of time. Complete waste of time. And look, let me point out as well, we all know that Trump had said during his 2016 and 2020 campaigns that if he had lost, well, it's not because I lost, it's because the Democrats stole the election. The guy is a complete and utter liar. There is no comparison here. That said, have Democrats complained when they lost? Well, obviously, everybody complains when they lose. I mean, look, Hillary Clinton's the best example of that. When she lost the 2016 election, Russia, Bernie Sanders, the dog ate my homework, but she never said the Republicans orchestrated a conspiracy to steal the election from me. No, not only that, but she conceded right after, immediately. And most importantly, she did not try to ever do an insurrection. The simple fact, though, is that Republicans, look, they don't want to talk about voter rights. Why? Because they believe that certain people should not be allowed to vote. They shouldn't be allowed to have those rights. Again, you can go back to the, godfather of the modern conservative movement, Paul Weyrich, when he says, hey, we don't want more people to vote. We want less people to vote, because when less people vote, we win. Simple as that. And they're still running that playbook to this day. So, look, what Biden said, a little sloppy, of course. But also, when you look at the way mainstream media is covering it, and especially when you look at the way that Fox News and conservatives are covering it, look, if you're actually out there saying that, oh no, Joe Biden is being exactly like Donald Trump, and he's questioning the results of the election, well, that's a complete lie. That's absolutely dishonest. And I say that because I am seeing corporate media do this. Maybe they miss Donald Trump in the massive headlines. Hey, look, you got to admit, Donald Trump, very entertaining person, especially to cover. Absolutely. But they're not the same. What do you need to get some controversy to get you through the day, CNN? Fox News? no, this is irresponsible. It's gross. It's not real journalism. And it only helps people like Josh Hawley, who absolutely refused to accept the results of the 2020 election and will continue to do everything that they can to undermine democracy.